do is it's called qualified immunity. And primarily, it's putting the police in a, let me see if I got this thing correct. It's putting the police where the morale of the police department will be down, and many police officers will resign because now they'll be able to be sued for stuff that primarily they normally would have gotten away with. It's called qualified immunity, and a lot of people are upset at that. And they said because of that, policing may change. Policing may change. But that's just one of the things that is going on, and they also have a union, and it comes down to that question: what is the purpose of a union? Charlie Munoz, give it to me. What is the purpose of a union, sir?
Well, I mean, what I know of the purpose of a union is to protect a person's job, to provide a person with a living wage, to fight for a person's rights, to keep management at bay when they try to abuse their power. I mean, and of course, there's other perks like helping us get a better medical, better dental. Those are just the perks, the best deals. I mean, we're a 40,000 member unit, and when you go to, let's say, Aetna, and you say, hey, I got 40,000 people who want to sign up, or you place them against somebody else, you get a good deal when it comes to medical. Unfortunately, I don't think this, and I'm going to go off base for a little bit.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't think that this union has done that. I think that there's been maybe some under the table dealings, because why Aetna? Aetna sucks, and I know because I have 2 bad knees, I have a bad hip, they all need to be replaced, and I'm having a hard time with them. So,
Mr. Blocker, what's the purpose?
I'm just saying. I don't know if there's any underhandedness, but
Yeah, I got you, sir. Brother Blocker, what's the purpose of a union?
Well, the union is supposed to fight for the members. It's supposed to take care of the members, just like Charlie said. Even with the medical, I really haven't been having problems with my medical, but the union is supposed to, regardless what an individual does, supposed to take care of that individual, because there's a lot of individuals with problems, personal problems. That's where UAP come in. They're supposed to help the members, because I had a little situations, and you need somebody else to talk to other than management, because management don't really care. That's where your union comes in at. They're supposed to help solve your problems, your personal problems, in order for you to keep your job, in order for you to be successful on your job. Because a lot of people don't know that.
Well, hopefully, if they go to our YouTube page, they will learn a lot about unionism. Brother Staley, what is the purpose of a union, sir?
Well, the union is an intermediator between the employer and the workers. Their job is to do collective bargaining for the workers, and also work and negotiate favorable working conditions and benefits, and all that is achieved through collective bargaining. So that's the job of the union.
Now, I'm glad you mentioned collective bargaining, because I was at a union meeting, and I personally wasn't told, but it was said that management can do whatever they want based on the collective bargaining agreement, section 1, verse 6A, which gives management the right to run the business how they see fit. Now, is that correct, Staley? Can management just do whatever they want? Because we see in past practices where you come home one day and they get rid of the AVAs. And during the whole point of the snow duty, they said you couldn't have PLDs, you couldn't have vacation days. So it appears that on the surface that management can do whatever they want. What say you? Can they do whatever they want, sir?
No, that's not true. That's 100% a lie. Because all you have to do is look it up for yourselves. That the union is, and like I said, is a mediator, like a mediator between management and the workers. You don't need a union if a union cannot stand up and fight for better working conditions or negotiate, whether it's benefits, health benefits, or whether it's workers' rights. You don't need a union if they're going to use that as an excuse. Then what you need them for? It's all about interpretation of that rule that everybody keeps reading. That shows the lack of education and understanding when people just lay down, read that and lay down and don't fight at all. That means, number one, you shouldn't even be in the union because you don't know what your job is. Number two, you don't know anything about reading contracts. Because also remember this, whatever, I don't care what a contract says, if there's a law that gives you a right or an entitlement to something, a contract cannot take it away because it's the law. There's a terminology for a bad provision in a contract. There's a name for that. And by the time we finish, I'm gonna pull this up and give you the exact name of it. But there's a terminology for it that lawyers use, especially when we go to court on issues like that, where it says a contract is trying to say, well, it says this, but the law entitles you to what you're asking for. That provision in the contract is a terminology that sort of voids it or make it like a null and void issue in the contract.
So,
But
Mhm.
but no, it's you don't need a union when they're going to sit back and make excuses not to do their job. It also shows the education of the workforce, because when you got outsiders looking at this and let them see that the union is feeding you a lot of BS and you're accepting it, then other people don't even want to try to help you, because you got to be able to help yourselves. You got to look up stuff. You got to see it for yourself in black and white. I tell anybody that I give advice to that if I give you advice, I want you not just to take it, to look it up and see it for yourself, because when you see it in black and white for yourself, it empowers you. That means you don't go around and say, well, Staley said, no. Staley said it, but I looked it up. I saw it in black and white. That's what gives you your power right there. Because if somebody turn around and Staley didn't know what he was talking about, then you're going to turn around and say, well, that'll make you back down. But if you see it for yourself, the exact thing that I told you, that's more empowering than anybody else. Nobody can turn around and tell you, well, still you didn't know what he was talking about. So always keep that in mind. If I tell you something, also look it up. And I don't mind you calling me and telling me if it ain't so.
Charlie Munoz, let me ask you a question. Why is the union afraid of arbitration? During the contract, when me, you, Staley, and our block and the rest of us were yelling and screaming, say no, say no, say no. The situation was the union was saying, no, you got to say yes, because you don't want to go to arbitration, because we can lose
I
an
don't know why.
arbitration.
That puzzles me, because the majority of the time, and this is for all companies, we're not just talking about transit, when the workers take management to arbitration, the workers usually win. You know, so I don't understand, why is this union afraid to go to arbitration unless there's some side deals with management. I have to call it as it is.
Not saying anything, but there could be some side deals. Blocker, why do you think union doesn't want to go to arbitration?
Just said it, the side deals. Let me ask you, I'm still wondering what happened with the class action lawsuit for Snowdo.
Well, the person that
With that
basically
building,
said all that stuff, he's no longer with us. He done moved
no,
motion. moved up and got a promotion. So I haven't heard anything about that, sir. I've looked into it since you've last actually spoke about it. No one knows anything about it. It was just spoken words, and that was just it.
Let me point out that you mentioned section, whatever the,
It's section
okay.
1(6) of the CBA.
Okay, management can do something, but that's only if we're not doing the job. In other words, if I show up to work and I'm not doing anything, and all the workers, my coworkers aren't working, yes, management could take action because we're not providing a service, yet we're getting paid for it. But if we're doing our job, then they can't do anything about it. That's total BS. This union lives on fear, and it thrives on it, and it lives on it, because it thrives on making us scared of management, but it also tries to keep us in check by using fear. And that's something that's got to stop. They have to be transparent with the membership, and they're not. A lot of things are hidden away from us, and then we find out when, like you said, Murray, when you said that you actually had I'll give you an example because you mentioned it, that you found out about the Wayfinder program being scrapped. It wasn't from a union. The union never informed you. You heard it from somebody else.
It was from supervision.
Yeah, where was the union? If they knew about it, where were they?
Well, I had to actually call the union to get what's going on here, and then they explained it to me. And we all were upset, but there was not much that we can do. Let me bring Stanley in here. Stanley, let me ask you a question. Why is the union afraid to go to arbitration?
Okay. I'm gonna answer that question, but
Yes,
I want
sir.
to go back to the issue of the labor management question because I never really gave a clarity on that. It's all about interpretation when it comes to that issue of labor management. And what they can do is really still within the confines of the agreement with the union workers. It doesn't mean that they could do anything. When somebody say anything, that's a lazy ass, uneducated person that don't want to do their job. It does not mean that. Everything, like I said, people do not understand how to read and understand contracts. Then you should not be there. Number one, if you have a problem understanding English, period, then you have no business being there. Management look at the level of education of all these people you got in there calling themselves they're your representatives. And they look at them and they equate their intelligence with you. If your leadership or your representative is not that smart, then management look at you and say, you can't be that smart, because who would pick some educated, somebody that don't even have a GED, and they running around talking about they represent you.
Right, now,
That's where you get your respect from. Your respect as workers come from the type of representatives you have in place. If they're lazy, they helping management by helping management with their agenda by agreeing with management, then that's not your union. That person should not be there calling themselves representing you. Now, when it comes to arbitration, these people want to take your fight away from you when it comes to the issue of arbitration.
correct.
They want to take your only option to fight management away from you by also. Who are you to say you're all of a sudden you clairvoyance, you're a magician or something? You're gonna tell us what an arbitrator is thinking? There's so many stories that I hear about arbitration, and it takes your right away from you to fight, and it's being done by your own union. Your job is to fight for me. You don't sit there and make excuses. Our salary pays their salary. All right, they work for us. They should not be there telling us what they don't want to do or ain't going to do, because they're lazy, uneducated, and don't know what to say when they walk into a courtroom.
Let me point out that as representatives, we pay them.
Yes.
We pay them, and we pay them handsomely, over $30 million a year. $30 million a year.
How much?
Over $30 million a year.
Yeah, that's the total. That's the total amount for the year for all the members. That's all of us paying our dues.
Local
That's-
100.
Yeah, that's what they get.
Wow, $30 million.
Yeah.
Over $30 million. Yes.
$30 million, and we can't get a shop steward class. It's been 3 years. $30 million.
Also, always
Yes, sir.
remember, it's the level of respect. And that's why I said this union will not ever address the needs of the workers when they sit their ass up in the union hall and never come out there on the road and talk to the members. You got everybody in that union that look at each other. And if one is doing more than the next, then they start to collaborate and try to get and put together a way to get rid of that person. If you're doing something more intelligent and more helpful to the members, everybody, all the ones that are uneducated and lazy, they feel threatened. They figure you'll move up through the ranks and eventually get their asses kicked out of that hall. So they all start to conspire to get you out of there one way or another.
Blocker, let me ask you a question. Do you think that there's transparency between membership and union leadership? Do you think there's transparency?
No.
Let me ask you this question, Mr. Munoz.
Yes.
If what Blocker said is true, then can you explain to me why there is no transparency between the membership and the union leadership?
Well, I mean, they're afraid of, and I'm going to be quite honest. They're afraid of people like us who ask questions, people who know the answers, but we just want to hear from them. They don't want to look dumb, or they don't want to look afraid. So they like to hide things from us, because in order to keep your enemy, which basically we are, because we're knowledgeable. So anybody who has a brain in their head, they consider an enemy. They don't want you to be knowledgeable and know your facts, because like, for instance, I love giving examples. So I'll give you an example. Like when Utano came out and said, we won what?
Yeah.
We had an ironclad contract to get 2%. How was the MTA going to hold back? So when people see headlines like we win, they automatically think, oh yeah, we did win. No, you didn't win shit. Okay. You didn't lose. Okay. Because that was set in stone. As a matter of fact, that was set in stone 2 years ago. And Kenny, you were there, and was Staley there? Well, we were at the MTA board meeting. Ferretti was there, John Ferretti.
Yes.
And they gave out these pamphlets. And if you skim through it, you'll see where it says that they put 2% away for raises.
Yes.
Okay. So that was already set in stone 2 years ago. And now they were saying that they might take it away. That's BS. You see how the union plays games?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're just touching the tip of the iceberg. We're about to go deeper. Staley, let me ask you a question. Would you happen to know the 5 categories dealing with unfair labor practices, sir?
Yeah. And before we get off of that,
Yes,
into that there, I wanted to piggyback off of what Charlie was just talking about. Every year, a year, the budget for TA puts away 2% for the workers. So when we call ourselves negotiating a contract and they jump around up and down and swear that 2% we just did something great. TA is the bargaining point, is in their budget, is 2%. So we're not gaining nothing. We're getting what they wanted to give us. And if they couldn't manipulate it and get it even less, it's a win for them. But it's always every year in the TA budget that is 2%.
They already have the 2% budgeting. So
yeah, it's always budgeted. That's been that there for, listen, I've been here 27 damn years. That's always been in the budget. TA budget is 2%, always set aside for the workers. It hasn't changed. So it's no big deal when these guys come jumping up and down trying to, let me just say this here. the contract negotiations, me and what you this other the station John Mooney. Me and John Mooney went to contract negotiations when what's his name was still there.
Samerson? Samerson? John Samerson
No,
or
not that. No,
Roger?
for TA.
What's his name? Shoot, the hell's his name? The guy who
Yeah.
laid off people, right? That's who you're talking about?
No, he negotiated
Not
from
Prendergast.
he's-
Not Prendergast,
who?
was it?
Yeah,
Prendergast?
Pendergrass.
Okay.
He said before contract negotiations that the TA made a lot of money that during that time, and they had money. He said it publicly. He said that we had money enough to give the workers a substantial raise. Okay, so we already now he said this back in like the summer, maybe like July, August of that year of contract negotiations. So I get a call from Mooney one day and he says, listen, when he knew when the negotiations were being held at, let's go down to the hotel. We went there. And Pendergrass was ready and prepared to give us, for the first time in a long time, since the days of Willie James and them, they were preparing to give us almost a 3.5, almost a 4% raise. And it was going back and forth for 2 days till the governor got into it. The governor called in to that hotel, and out of his mouth came the words, keep their raises within the guidelines of the state workers, which mean keep us like within two. The state had got something like 2.1 or something for the state workers. All right, that's where all the office workers for the state, they were given the 2.1 raise, and that when Pendergrass pulled the bigger raise off the table. Okay, this joint making not way enough money. A lot of these stations and these rehabs programs and all that, they were built on the back of the workers because we weren't giving the substantial raises that we was deserved us, and our own union was kicking our own fight from underneath us by saying, don't go to arbitration. Don't go to arbitration. These are people that don't know what they're doing.